Welcome to Next Level Play Therapy, a weekly podcast dedicated to supporting the next generation of child and adolescent therapists to provide exceptional play therapy services. We'll explore all things play therapy to elevate your work with children and adolescents using the therapeutic powers of play. I'll discuss practical tips and ideas so you can provide a transformative experience for your young clients and make a real difference in their lives. So get ready to take your play therapy skills to the next level and make a lasting impact in the lives of children, adolescents, and families. All righty, welcome everyone to this week's weekly episode. Welcome to Next Level Play Therapy podcast. And if you are watching us live today, please feel free to post your name and comments, where you're from, what population you work with, any questions that you have for us today. And if you do have questions or comments that you want to make, the only thing that we ask is that you not post questions about specific clients or client information, because this is a public format and we want to maintain that privacy. So I'm really excited today to have my guest with me, Kim Vanderdusen. She is on the board for the Association for Play Therapy. She is the current 2024 chair. And I thought it would be really helpful to have APT kind of represented today to really talk about play therapy, the field of play therapy. What are some trends in play therapy? One of the things that I know APT, which stands for the Association for Play Therapy, if you're not from the US, you might not have heard of that. They are really focused on keeping up with trends and being really a thought leader and advancing the field of play therapy. And so I know just in my 20 years of membership with APT, just some of the changes that I've seen them participating in and kind of participating in some of the APT programs. And so welcome, Kim. It is so nice to have you here today. And I thought I would just let you kind of introduce yourself a little bit about, what you're doing these days.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I, besides being chair of the board of directors this year, I am I'm a licensed psychologist, and I am a full professor in an APA accredited PsyD program, and in that program, I'm coordinator of the child and adolescent concentration. Not really a surprise. And I have a clinical practice too, and my areas of focus really are neurodivergent children and trauma and stress related, attachment related issues with children, adolescents, and their families. And so I do other things like speaking and writing and things like that. But between those three things, I'm a busy bee. So I'm really happy to come today and get to just talk about play therapy.
Yeah, right. So, what are some of the trends that even your time in the play therapy field and also being on the board, because I know you guys talk about this a lot, what are some of the trends that you've noticed in play therapy and some of the changes?
I think the one that is always kind of ongoing is our need to support and promote ongoing play therapy research. And I mean, it is something that started many years ago as, we're scanning the environment and looking at kind of the changing tides in regards to evidence-based practice. And that piece hasn't changed I don't always know that that's fully uh, value, like how much, never say about that, but it is critically important to the sustainability of our field. And I think that's kind of quintessentially, in a lot of ways, represents the board's job.
Mm-hmm.
Is we have to, we do have to be very future focused and not just what is the issue today, but what are the issues going to be 5, 10, 15 years from now, and how do we continue and sustain growth, and and research remains a mission. Um, I think the other trends that we're observing, um, in particular, uh, in regards to post COVID, uh,
Mm-hmm.
is the our issues around accessibility uh, and how we navigate training and credentialing requirements. There's quite a lot of um, discussion around that issue. It's kind of a present issue, but we also have to look, 5, 10, 15 years in the future, and how do we maintain the integrity of the credential so that the credential continues to mean something, because it's not a certification. We're not just like, and I have lots of those certifications where I've completed the training kind of program requirements, but we're a step above that when we are credentialing people to be registered play therapists, registered play therapist supervisors, school based, etc. So, there have been ongoing changes and kind of a constant process of evaluation. And with the very long term goal of the credential being, highly respected, um, and, uh, sustainable at the same time. So it's, I mean, I know there are issues. We know there are issues for people regarding affordability, accessibility, and we've got to figure those out. I think kind of in relationship to that, that you know that is very actually member driven. So I know there are places that are like it all needs to be virtualized and APT listening, but there are also a lot of voices that also very strongly believe some in person is kind of is critical. So I don't know that they're necessarily as vocal as like what you might see on social media,
Mm-hmm.
but they're definitely vocal. And these decisions are actually made by members. Like the credentialing committee drives
Mm-hmm.
this, and of course the board considers, but this is not these phenomena are not necessarily top down driven. They're driven by members saying, hey, we need our credential to be meaningful. We're concerned about, maintaining the quality of the credential. And these things lead to credentialing changes.
Yeah, that's a really good point because I know I remember when APT made the changes. So I got started back like 20 years ago, a
Mhm.
little over 20 years ago now. Once I finally found APT.
Yeah.
Um, and there have been some changes with the credentialing process.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, when was it, back in 2020 that they made the shift in the
It
structure?
was it was before,
Oh,
but
okay.
there was like a but there was like a now I can't remember exactly. The the shift was made before, but there was like a implementation deadline
Right.
for
Yes.
paperwork and
Yes.
like and all these endless Q&A. There's still a monthly Q&A
I
that
know. I tell people all the time, if you have questions about it, APT will work with you.
yeah.
Their goal is not to be rigid. They just are trying to protect the quality and integrity of the credential.
Hmm.
And so talk with them, and they do monthly Q&As to answer questions. So
And,
yeah,
and yeah, sorry.
yeah. I remember and I I'm usually uh, I'm usually the one that kind of sees things a little differently than most people. I mean, my husband has come to. He's like, "You're an outlier," and for years I fought that, and now I'm like, "Okay, fine, I'm an outlier." Um, but now I'm like, "Cool, I'm an outlier." So one of the things, like, I actually think it's a good thing that they've shifted to the structure, because I remember when I was doing it, and going through like trainings, and it was so kind of disjointed. And we really do need, when we're getting theory and knowledge, we really need to be able to take that information from trainings and have an experienced person help us apply it in our different circumstances. So, like, I have a program called Play Therapy Academy, and it's just like courses and consultation, and to help people get their RPT. And that's a lot of what we talk about, is how do you take what you're learning and now you have to apply it, because you're going to go to those trainings and it's going to look all perfect, and they're going to tell you all their perfect stories. But guaranteed, and when you have clients in your office, not going to look that way. You're going to have to do
Yeah,
clinical decision making and think,
yeah.
okay, if this, then that, and what do I do? And how do I work with parents and all the
Yeah.
things? And so having that structure, I I know people are frustrated as well, and I think sometimes they think too much about, meaning it's like analysis paralysis sort of thing. Like, that it's really not as hard as it seems.
Oh, yeah. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and
Yeah. No,
it's
I mean, I too, I got my credential back in 2003, and um, and as I've watched, people get credentialed from that time, I, I was fortunate enough to kind of be in a learning program. I was in the play therapy certificate program at UCSD that, and so we had, monthly classes and found kind of a mentor through that while I was also doing full time, community mental health work. And so, doing my individual and group supervision as I'm learning and integrate, it was just really ideal. And it, yeah, but what I saw kind of for a lot of people is exactly what you described.
mhm.
Um, workshops here, workshops there, and and you know some all of their supervision at one time in a handful of months, and so the integration and really being a well-grounded credentialed play therapist, it would take some time actually after they were credentialed.
Yeah.
So
And then
so
APT also, I thought this was really awesome too. Um, did I think I think they kind of commissioned or asked, I don't know the right word, some for a study to be done for the purpose of identifying competencies. Because I feel like that kind of goes along with what you're saying in terms of, so we have this credential, you call yourself a play therapist, and what are the competencies to back up that quality? If you use that RPT credential, registered play therapist credential, what competencies come along with that? And I think that was also another trend that I saw that was really good. And as supervisors or consultants, for helping people obtain that RPT credential, what we're looking at is working with child and adolescent therapists to develop these competencies.
Right, right. And I think, and I think it is partly also driven by the ways in which parents have changed. A lot of our clients are millennial parents, and they have a different kind of lens to mental health, and their parents are a little more savvy and do their research. And I am definitely seeing this in California, where the therapists are doing some research and they are contacting me because I am a credentialed play therapist.
Oh, interesting.
And,
Yeah.
because they've done their homework, their child has, selective mutism, or their child has, a lot of, um, assorted concerns, and they go looking, and they call me and tell me, I think my child needs play therapy. And as trends like that trends like that kind of happen on the coast, and then it migrates its way across. Well, it kind of goes from the coast, and then Chicago, and then out west. And and um, so I definitely see that as a partially a function of increased research and promotion efforts, because I think that's another major um, focus. There's so much out there in terms of like, get this certification, get that certification, and that early career clinicians pursue, because leave school with the foundations and then feel like you need more credentials to make you more competent. When I was early career, I was, oh, that certification sounds good. That one sounds good.
Me
And I
too.
clearly doing it to make myself feel more competent
Right.
at at uh, at what I was doing. And so and in the digital age, and and future generations of 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 clinicians are going to be even more like, millennials enjoy technology, but like this next generation, where we will be,
Mm,
creating clinicians, this Gen Alpha, they are masters of technology.
technology. Yeah.
It's not just like they enjoy it, but they've got currently have much greater mastery of it. And so how are we going to, 10, 15 years, how are we going to reach those clinicians and engage those clinicians? And so the need to continue to promote and make us visible and credible is intense. And things like the some of the recent developments, like Aetna, some major insurance companies recognizing the value of play therapy, like that's I
That's
can't I can't understate how seriously important that is.
Yes.
And might only be important to clinicians that take Aetna, but for our reputation, our visibility, and the credibility of places is big. And we need to continue to stay focused on things like that. And I guess that's one of the things I found. Like a lot of what the APT has to do isn't like um, you know, like exciting or like in the
Get
moment.
the shiny object syndrome,
Yes,
right?
exactly. But,
Yes.
and so therefore, not it doesn't seem important to members on the ground.
That's
So
a really good point.
that's always like this. Okay, we got to meet the needs of members on the ground, and we have to look far into the future for health and sustainability of the organization. So it's just a
Yeah, I think that's a really good point too. Um, that whole awareness and awareness of play therapy and what play therapy is. And one of the things I talk about all the time for anybody who's listening on that episode today, if people have like previous episodes, I'm always talking about what sets play therapy apart from other, just pulling out games and toys. And I feel like that increased awareness of what play therapy is and what sets it apart is an important part of what, as play therapists, what we're doing, but also the Association for Play Therapy. I know, so I'm originally from the Virginia area. In my adulthood, that's where I grew up. Most of my life was in Virginia, and so I was there. Ann Stewart was the president for VAPT. She was awesome. Um,
I love. I love Anne.
how do you not, man? She's like the nicest and so tuned in, I think, to what's going on. And I think for me, that was a really positive experience kind of coming up. And one of the big things was also promoting awareness of
Mm-hmm.
play therapy
I
and
continue. Mm-hmm.
yeah, helping people understand what that is. And so when I moved to the West Coast, I live in Southern Nevada. There was no association for play therapy. There was no branch here. Um, so I was part of the Utah Association for Play Therapy because I was working in Utah at the time and enjoyed my time there. And so, but that whole awareness thing is so important. And eventually connected with Dana Holtz. I don't know
Yeah.
if you know Dana. And then we kind of worked together to get a branch up and running with Cathi Levy. And so that's up and running now, which is
Yes.
nice. And I think one of the things Dana and I used to talk about, and Dana would talk about because she was the president for the branch for a while, is increasing awareness
Mm-hmm.
in Nevada because there's not a lot of awareness because there hasn't been an APT branch here.
Right.
An understanding of what that RPT credential brings you,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the competency and the awareness of, oh, if I need a therapist for my child, I need to find a play therapist, and I need to. And what's the difference between somebody saying they're a play therapist or they
Yes.
do therapy and somebody who
And being
actually
credentialed.
has been credentialed, did all the gazillion trainings, did the supervision consultation and all of that. And so the competency level, there's a kind of a
That's an ongoing issue, for 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 us, because I do see a lot of people, or do see or hear people that are not credentialed play therapists talk about, and promoting that they do play therapy, and I only refer to credentialed play therapists,
Yeah.
only, but it's something we have to continue to, try to tackle and get ahead of.
Yeah.
Um, and like kind of related to that I think isn't on people's radar, but something that we have to be, kind of very mindful of and focused on are things that happen at APA and things that APA does.
Oh,
As,
interesting.
yeah, because APA really is the leader in, they were the drivers of evidence-based practice. Like they're the drivers they,
Oh, interesting.
of
Well, it makes
evidence-based
sense with
practice.
psychology and research, right?
Yes, yes. APA drives quite a lot, and 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 I live with it all the time because I'm in an APA accredited PsyD program.
Mhm.
Now, the psychologists, like clinical psychologists, are not like it's a small group in our membership. Okay, so but APA controls things like continuing educate, like they drive a lot of credentialing related things, a lot of continuing education kind of things, standards of practice
Mm.
that trickle down to other disciplines, and a lot of what's happening, or as we're future kind of trending and watching APA, is they are tightening their requirements for everything.
Interesting.
And I mean, a lot of people, there are a lot of complaints about trying to, become an APT approved provider. You ought to see the application for APA.
I did. It's like my application took me like 2 days. It is thorough, thorough. But that to me again speaks to if you're a provider, you really need to accomplish a certain level of quality and standards in your training for play therapy.
Yeah, yeah. But to be an APA approved provider,
Uh huh.
it makes our it's like our APT approved provider application on steroids.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
it's
that's intense.
intense. It's
Yes,
intense. Or even like a proposal for like
a workshop.
a workshop. Ours are a walk in the park.
Really, I find APTs. I've been rejected so many times. I mean, I got picked once, and I'm like, okay, fine. I'm just going to keep going. They're there, but that also says to me, they get a lot of applications, so they want the quality and certain things that are trending in the direction where they want to be sure they're keeping up with best practices.
You know what made me a good proposal writer?
Please share.
Serving on the conference committee.
Oh my gosh, I thought about that because I'm like, I don't, I like, I'm missing something. Like, I know I know I'm good. I can say that now because I've been doing it for a while. And plus, I usually get out of four, out of five, I usually get fours and fives. So I'm like, well, I know I don't suck, but obviously I'm not writing it very well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think because it's a blind process.
It is a blind process. That's why I'm like, well, it's not, I'm not taking it personal. Most of the time I read the comments, I get irritated, and then I tell myself to put my ego aside and take the constructive feedback.
Yeah, it is a blind process, and so we see, because we don't, and anything that might have been identifying gets removed. And when it comes to the evaluation process, and then I served on that committee too, and I was chair. That's the other thing. Like, if you want to understand. what's going on in our field, get involved in APT. Um, and I served I was chair of that too, so I got to see kind of the whole process. And, when you're done, you see the rating of all 200 and something proposals. And so, like, I mean, you have to read as a committee member all the proposals. And
Yeah.
then, and ABT even tracks like how much time you spend reading each proposal.
Oh, interesting.
So
Yeah, because there's a ton.
yeah, because there's a ton, and they don't, and so they need to know that the proposals are actually vetted, and people aren't just yeah, or
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
giving mindful reviews
Yes.
of of proposals. So it definitely taught me how to write them. I didn't anticipate that. Somebody had said that to me, like encouraged me to start. You're going to get that much better at proposal writing, and your proposals, you'll get a much your rejection rate will change drastically.
Yes. I
Um,
actually thought about that because I stepped down from the Nevada APT board, and I've usually always done something with
yeah,
APT in some capacity or another. And I thought, you know what, I should probably be on that conference committee so I can figure out how to write these dang things.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So serving in some way, yeah. So if you were, so what would you recommend in terms of like if people want to learn more about play therapy? What are some of the? I've been a member of APT since 2003, and if any other membership has to go, like if I'm going through a little financially tight time, I'll drop all the other ones, but I won't drop APT.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Um, and I think that speaks to. I actually think our membership is cheap.
Totally.
In
Yes.
comparison, and they just raised the fees a little bit because we have to. But it's
Right.
the first time in
Forever.
18 years, our fees, my Andrea fees are twice our fees,
Oh, I
um,
bet.
or almost triple our fees. So, and I also am certified in the neurosequential model therapeutics,
Oh, I love that.
and yeah, and we're really cheap in comparison to that.
Right?
Um, so I mean, I love the journal, I love the magazine, I love the access to um, forums and the automatic connection with the state branch and the discounts and the free promotional materials.
Yes.
You know, I think we get a lot of bang for our buck in membership.
I definitely agree with that. Not I would say like the being able to be a member and have be a member of your state branch.
Yeah,
It can I mean you have a supportive community, you have other people who are I always say nerdy play therapists like well, I'm a I'm a proud play therapy nerd. Like
yeah,
nerdy is my thing.
yeah.
So you have other people where you connect. Plus, they're kind of a fun group of people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that's where I started too, was involved in my branch, and I was California
Mhm.
president some time ago, and I'm so thankful for that and the relationships that has helped me build across the state. But it definitely, and I believe that branches are the lifeblood of the organization, and that's a gateway for so many people in terms of the larger association, um, and I think that's important. And I think if you get really interested in leadership in APT, you
Yeah.
gotta you have to go through. Leadership Academy. Um,
I found that I did Leadership Academy when Bill Burns was around.
okay,
So I
wow.
did when this
Um,
was like a bazillion years ago. It was Bill Burns and Bill Nordling. And I
oh
had
wow,
taken some training because I was in the Washington, D.C. area and NIRE, which is the National Institute for Relationship Enhancement, where they teach child-centered play therapy. Bill Nordling does, and filial therapy. And so I went up there and I did those trainings, and he's very professional. He's very, you know, very on point. And in play therapy, the Leadership Academy, him and Bill, and this was I mean, this is everything was online. So it was
yeah,
kind of cutting edge back then,
yeah, yeah,
doing those discussion boards. I was rolling on the floor because there's a lot of learning. Like Bill Burns was really into leadership and
yeah,
what is leadership, and so we did a lot about leadership and
yeah. You ought to see it now because the chair is involved in the current Leadership Academy group, and it is a lot of work,
it is a lot of work.
but it really is. You kind of you get that in vivo practice with policy governance, and
And the mission of APT, like I remember I mean, how many? I'm sure they're still doing it now. You serve, you have to put your ego aside. You're not serving to say I'm the president of my branch. Like
oh,
that's the case, then that's not going to work. It's more about serving the mission. I feel like the mental health community, we're kind of a mission focused group
yeah,
of people anyway. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There, yes, definitely. I think that's true, and I think the the people that serve, particularly like at the board level, but in very like a lot of these our committees work really hard,
Yes.
and and then when people serve you, there's I it's such an, a privilege and an honor, and it is such a massive responsibility
Yes.
that people take their job as board members very seriously,
Oh, that's
um,
good.
and it feels a little bit like a calling,
Hmm.
but you definitely it brings out the best in people, because it's not necessarily an easy position to be in terms of like what the membership thinks the board does versus what the board really does. There's a discrepancy there,
Right. Yeah.
and that's difficult. And but the board speaks with one voice, and is just we have to come to consensus. It's really amazing, and when my time's done, I'll miss it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, part of what we're doing is developing a professional identity.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
when I think one of the benefits of being a member in the Association for Play Therapy, or for those of you who are living outside of the United States, and there are memberships where you are like the British Association for Play Therapy. I think now there's an Australian
Yep.
Association for Play Therapy.
Yep.
There's an Italian Association for Play Therapy. I I think wherever you're living, being being with a group of like-minded people working to develop high standards and competency for the purpose of serving and healing children and families. I think when you're a member, like with the Association for Play Therapy, that also kind of promotes your identity as a play therapist, because you have access to a zillion resources,
Yeah.
including free trainings, um,
Yeah.
and your membership in the branch, your it's that synergistic kind of experience where we come together and helps us kind of continue to strive towards high standards.
Yeah. If I could tell one last story, I, my first, I always tell people, I say, I'm a licensed psychologist and a registered play therapist supervisor. And one is, my larger professional group, and the other is those are my people. And the first, and I remember attending, psychology things, and not quite, resonating the same way, certainly at the time.
Yeah.
APA was not talking about children. And I went to my first APT conference, and I went to the keynote, and I didn't hardly know anybody. I was with my mentor, and Ken Schwarzenberger, and my best friend. And I sat in the back, and I took it in and what people were saying, and I cried.
Oh,
I
yes.
had found my
People. Yep. Yeah, I have very similar experiences as well. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. So if anyone, and if you're interested in learning more about the Association for Play Therapy and membership, my amazing virtual assistant, Brill, who shows up in his comments as Dom, is going to post links over to the Association for Play Therapy website. And that is the letter A, the number 4, the letter P, the letter T.org. So A4PT, Play Therapy, Association for Play Therapy. So if you're interested, just click on the membership page. But the website has a ton of information. You can find trainings and information about the conferences. And I would definitely like I said, like if I have to drop other memberships, I'll do that, but I'm not going to drop APT. Plus, it's so affordable. It is, I mean, they really do focus on serving the membership and providing support and promoting play therapy. And to do that, they have to keep it affordable for their members. And I think they really are member focused, kind of like what you were talking about.
Yeah.
So check out the comments. There's links in the comments. Thank you, Kim, for
Thank you
being
so much.
a guest
Yeah.
on the episode today. And we really appreciate all that you are doing. I know people are kind of frustrated a little bit here and there. And I think when they kind of understand the purpose, and APT really will work with you. I mean, just they have all kinds of resources to kind of get some help and support. So,
Yeah.
all righty. Well, thank you for being on the episode today.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Take care.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Next Level Play Therapy. I hope you found the discussion valuable and gained new insights and ideas to support your work helping children, adolescents, and families heal. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your feedback helps to improve and reach more people who can benefit from this information. Remember, play therapy is a powerful tool for healing and growth. Whether you're a new play therapist or experienced, I encourage you to continue your learning journey to unlock the potential of play in your own work and relationships. If you have any questions or topic suggestions for future episodes, I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on social media And visit my website at Renewing Hearts Play Therapy Training to stay updated on upcoming episodes, trainings, and resources. Thank you once again for listening to Next Level Play Therapy. Until next time, keep playing, learning, and growing.